Hello and welcome back to a Method to the Madness Breaking Bad edition. I'm your host Patrick, and joining me as always is Mitchie.
Hello.
This week we are covering Season 1, Episode 5 of Breaking Bad, entitled Grey Matter.
Grey Matter. So I think this episode is very similar to how 2 and 3 are linked. This one's very much linked to Episode 4 in the way that it feels, I suppose.
Yeah, it's very understated, I guess, yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, plot?
Yep.
Yeah? Okay.
Yep.
First paragraph. Breaking Bad, Grey Matter. Walt and Skylar attend a birthday party for their wealthy acquaintance, Elliot Schwartz. Years earlier, Walt and his then-girlfriend Gretchen had formed a company called Grey Matter Technologies with Elliot. The company name derived from mixing the colours in their last names, White and Schwartz. But Walt opted to sell off his share. Subsequently, the company had flourished off Walt's innovations, and Elliot married Gretchen. Walt was tense at the birthday party due to his troubled past. When Elliot offers him a job and tells him Grey Matter has excellent health insurance, Walt realizes that Skylar told Elliot about his cancer and gets upset with her. Interesting.
Now,
okay, I didn't realize that he sold it off his share. Like, in this ep, that's not actually said, though, so...
Yeah, no, I don't think it is.
Yeah, I don't think that's the best thing to put in the plot. Anyway.
I mean, there's a tangible feel of uncomfortableness. You can tell that there's like a veneer of politeness and insincerity throughout like their interactions. It's very uncomfortable.
It starts off like that, and the way it's built, like they're wearing the blue at the beige thing, and it looks like he's got this little president shit, and you know, like he's a school teacher now, and he's embarrassed to say so. But then, as soon as Elliot sees the noodles, and it brings back the memories of those two being at uni, things become a lot more amicable between them, and they seem to be more like friends.
It's a nice little arc, eh?
Yeah, it's actually really smart. Yeah,
and then this gets revealed at the end of the party, but Elliot just straight up offers to pay for his full treatment. Yeah. And then Walt declines. So this is a pretty big moment. Like,
it is.
You know, imagine if Walt was just like, okay, and then roll credits, that's the end of Breaking Bad.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, this is a pivotal moment for Walt. Just flat out refusing to have his treatment paid for, which is among the main catalyst for him cooking meth, I'd say.
Yeah, and it seems completely illogical too. Like to some degree, I can understand his stubbornness, and if it was less important than your own life and, you know, dying and leaving your family with all this debt, then maybe you'd be like really stubborn, like, nah, I don't want your help. But he needs this fucking money. Like, and like Gretchen says, to some degree, he does deserve it anyway, because he was one of the people that founded the company. So, and what's $90K on like millions of dollars of company money? Like, it's nothing.
And then we get a glimpse into Walt's genius about how these group of researchers, they talk about how Walt solved this like protein problem back in the day when no one else could figure it out.
Yeah.
It must be interesting working in research like that. Like, what do you do all day? You just kind of like it's such an abstract profession. You know what I mean? Like, yeah.
It's weird, but you just do a lot of thinking and talking and stuff like that. But there are goals, and you got to set like small goals and stuff and work towards them. So it seems more manageable. But yeah, it is a strange profession.
Yeah. Next paragraph.
Yeah, sure. After a failed job interview, Jesse shows his friend Badger the RV Walt and Jesse used as a meth lab. In the desert, Jesse is frustrated that the quality of his meth is inferior to that of Walt's and throws his own product away, much to Badger's dismay. Jesse cooks a couple more batches, which he also discards. Badger and Jesse brawl over the wasted meth, and Jesse pushes him out of the RV and drives away.
So, in the plot summary, it didn't cover this, but at the start of the episode, we see Jesse applying for like some office job.
Yeah.
And it's revealed that the job is actually a much more, I suppose, degrading job, which is just like wearing a costume and spinning a sign.
Yeah.
It's interesting. And then Badger and him have that conversation. I find the dynamic between them really interesting in this scene. Badger's completely content with doing this job, whereas Jesse, he's, you know, in Walt's eyes, Jesse's this like kind of unambitious, lazy kid. But compared to Badger, Jesse is actually quite ambitious.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's actually a good point. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think Walt has actually got to Jesse when in the last episode when he saw that grading paper, and then Walt's like, apply yourself, you know, and Jesse, having experienced Walt's cooking and how perfect his meth came out, and he called him an artist. I think he genuinely really looks up to Walt, and he's sort of internalized a bit of ambition from him.
Yeah, but I think prior to him cooking the meth, what's important is that this actually indicates that he's looking to quit cooking meth. He doesn't want to break the law anymore, and he actually wants to find a proper job. And then Badger's the one that kind of coerces him to making more meth again. And on top of that, he can't get a decent job, so he obviously is kind of forced to cook the meth too for the sake of money. But this is actually kind of important. Like, it's him actually getting away from all that. And similar to how Walter was doing that in the last couple episodes, Jesse's trying to do the same thing, because in the previous episode, he had that whole issue with his parents and got kicked out of his house again. And he obviously sees that what he's doing is wrong. But again, he kind of gets hooked into it again. I mean, it is his fault at the end of the day, but he can't get the job, and it kind of becomes like a vicious circle, and he's the one that's to blame. But at the same time, society isn't actually really trying very hard to help him out when he's the one that's doing drug abuse and all that.
Yeah, it's the show is so good at creating dilemmas.
Yeah,
I've noticed that, where it's like, multiple options that suck.
Yeah.
And that's like, Robert McKee talks a lot about that, about how that's how you create a good story, is giving options to your characters where none of them seem like the obvious right choice to make.
Yeah, that's true.
But that's a really good point. And yeah, I mean, Jesse and Badger have a fight, and then Jesse just fucking leaves Badger out in the desert.
Yeah, I don't know how he got back.
Yeah, right? Like, that seems like a super... Like, even if they were fighting, like, he could have died.
Maybe he came back for him, who knows?
Yeah, maybe.
One of the unanswerable questions of Breaking Bad. Yeah.
Next paragraph?
Yeah, sure. Skylar holds an intervention for Walt where she says she doesn't understand why Walt refuses treatment. Hank, Walt Jr. and Marie argue over what to do, while Skylar and Walt Jr. want him to take the treatment. Marie and later Hank feel Walt should be given the choice to decline the treatment if he wants. Walt ends the intervention saying he will not do the treatment. The next morning, Walt has a change of heart and tells Skylar he will do the treatment and he will take care of Elliot's check. Later, Gretchen calls, telling him that he has to accept the money. Walt says he appreciates the offer, but lies and says his insurance will now cover it. Walt then goes to Jesse's house and asks him if he wants to cook.
Just more great characterization from Hank when, as soon as Walter sits down, he like opens the platter and takes like a bunch of cheese.
Yeah, that's a really fucking good point, eh? Like, I love Hank. He's just, just the way he acts is so funny. And then he hands a piece of cheese to Marie and that, and like just trying to be polite, but he obviously doesn't give a fuck about getting them food. And they look at him like, yeah. But prior to that, buying them the beer, it didn't really go over it in the plot. But the important bit is that Walt Jr. calls Hank instead of his own dad to help him out and get out of the situation, which is, again, something we probably haven't really discussed much, but Walt Jr. is feeling the severe impact of this. Like in the previous episode, he's obviously very distressed with his dad not getting the treatment, and this continues on into this episode, and we see that he's still doesn't actually look up to his dad at all, and would rather call his uncle to deal with things like that, which is really sad. It belittles Walt again and makes him seem like this feeble man that isn't really a man, kind of thing.
And again, if we need any more reasons to like Hank, he recognizes that too. He's like, how do you think that makes your dad feel? Like, he's kind of looking out for him as well.
Yeah, he's a great
God, I
character.
love Hank.
Yeah, he's my favorite character. I love Hank.
Yeah. Speaking of lovable characters, I mean, this is the first time where I've actually liked Marie when she spoke up and said, I think it's your choice. You should be able to do what you want. Yeah. I really respect her opinion in this scene. Yeah,
because normally she seems like a little bit of like a psycho kind of bitch almost, bitch sister. But yeah, what she says is actually kind of reasonable, and I understand where Skylar and Walt Jr. are coming from. They don't want their father to die, but chemotherapy is, not something that you have to do because it does deteriorate your quality of life. So giving Walter that choice is a very important thing.
And what Walter says when it's his turn to speak pretty much echoes what Marie said about her experience dealing with patients like that, right?
Yeah. That bit was... So when he finally speaks and has that fucking talking pillow, holy shit, that is good bit of acting from Bryan Cranston. Like you
Oh, yeah.
like you know, like you just everyone just shuts up and watches because like it's good. Like you feel really like I don't know, like you kind of I guess feel sympathy or empathy for cancer victims because it's a serious issue. Plus, and then he has that little kind of monologue about talking about like I've never made any choices in life, which I find interesting because a lot of this show is based around choice and I guess it what it made me think of, it kind of echoed back to the coin flip, which wasn't his choice actually. It was just purely down to chance, right? And the universe that made him kill Crazy 8 because he was the one that ended up losing that coin toss. But at the end of the day, it is his choice, and I find that kind of that what he says is again reflecting his kind of his vanity, really, because he's the one that thinks he doesn't have a choice, but really he is the one that's making the choice of not taking this money and instead cooking meth.
Right, yeah, just this stubborn man.
He is fucking stubborn.
And then a bit later on, he gets that phone call from Gretchen.
Yeah.
And he completely refuses to, like, get on the same, like, sincere level as her. And she goes, Walt, like, is this about us? And then he puts on, like, this act, pretty much.
Yeah.
And again, that's just him refusing to reconcile with his past because he's so fucking stubborn.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. Why would you not take the money? I don't understand. Like to just become a fucking drug kingpin and really like becoming an ultimate criminal just because he doesn't want to take money from people. It's absurd.
Do you think it was about him and Gretchen?
No, I think it comes down to his vanity and his stubbornness. And it's interesting how Skylar actually says that. She says at one point when she's that talking pillow scene where she says, oh, maybe it was the way you were raised or something like that. But I understand that you don't want to take the money, but you need to. And then in the previous episode, we also learned that Walt hasn't told his mother yet that he has cancer, which is kind of like a big deal. Like, you know, if you're amicable with your own mother, then you probably would tell them pretty much straight away. So it indicates that there's some sort of, maybe it is right. Maybe it's the way he was raised. Maybe he was raised in a slightly abusive setting where he was expected to excel or something like that and be himself and live for himself. And that's why he ended up like this.
Well, we don't learn this till much later in the series, but Walt's dad died when he was really little, so maybe he had to provide much earlier on than others.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, okay.
Yeah. So, final thing, what do you think made Walter decide to take the treatment, finally?
Yeah, and that's what I kind of find weird, that he says, he has this speech, and he's like, no, I'm not doing it at all. And then literally like 2 minutes later, he hugs Skylar and then says that. And it's very quick for me where there's only one scene between then and there, which is he's lying on the bed and he sniffs a pillow and her face cream or something. And obviously he realizes that he doesn't want to lose that stuff. And maybe he realizes that like, even if his life is extended for a couple of years, it's worth it for that pain that he has to go through chemotherapy, because at least he can spend a few more years with Skylar. I think maybe it is actually a genuine reason and not something like, oh, I need more time to cook meth and make more money for my family. What do you think?
I think it's just another one of those like reflection themes of the duality of Walt.
Yeah.
You know, he's not the Kingpin Heisenberg yet, but he does have this duality of him between family man and independent, very, you know, stubborn man, I suppose.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you know, it's just, you know, that's what in storytelling you call giving characters dimensions, is when they have contradictory qualities about them.
Yeah, true.
And it makes them more complex and real. Yeah.
But yeah, because it is a very realistic thing to do. Maybe the reason why is because he didn't want to say it openly to people and he didn't want to seem like people were convincing him at this meeting, because, you know, that's part of his character, that he's stubborn, he's made up his mind already. So he'd rather do it behind the lines and just say to Skylar, I'll do it afterwards as well.
Well, you know, like the thing about like therapy is that a lot of the time you don't realize your own like nascent thoughts until you actually say them out loud. So maybe him having that speech made him be able to like reflect on that more honestly and decide what he actually wanted to do. Yeah. But yeah, that's about it.
Yeah, that's all I got.
Yeah, sweet. All right, thanks for listening, and join us next time
for episode 6.
Yeah.
Skylar, you've read the statistics. These doctors, they're talking about surviving. 1 year, 2 years, like it's the only thing that matters. But what good is it to just survive if I am too sick to work, to enjoy a meal, to make love?
If you like this series, Mitch is going to tell you where you can find more of these.
Yep, so you can find us on Spotify, YouTube, iTunes, SoundCloud, or Stitcher. And we've also got a website, amttm.com, where you can find our fabulous episodes on Breaking Bad.
If you have any questions, queries, insights, or criticism, you can send them to mail@amttm.com.
And as always, thank you for listening.